Vanessa Francis and Judy Kretmar have been practicing transmission meditation for nearly 50 years between the two of them. Welcome, Judy. Welcome, Vanessa. It's nice to have you here.
Thanks for having us.
So we're going to be talking about transmission meditation. And there's a lot of different forms of meditation out there, but let's talk about transmission meditation today. Tell me what it is. That's a big question, isn't it?
It is, but we can maybe put it in the most economical, simple form. Transmission meditation is basically a group meditation that also provides a field of service for anyone who is participating. It's actually the combination of two forms of yoga, which is karma yoga, which is the yoga of service, and laya yoga, which is the yoga of energies. And we all, it's as its name suggests, which is the transmission of energy. We're living in an energetic universe. Scientists have basically acknowledged the fact that that's the case. There are tremendous potent energies that are constantly coming in from space to our Earth, and human beings, whether we know it or not, knowingly or unknowingly, are actually clearinghouses for these energies that are coming from the kingdom that's above the human kingdom, which is the spiritual kingdom, and to the earth. And they're transformed by the members of the spiritual kingdom, sent through the human beings and into the world where they're done, where they do as much good as they can. We don't direct the energies. We basically just sit in a group formation, focusing on the ajna center, which is the center between the eyebrows, and the rest of the work is done for us. So it's basically an extraordinarily simple yet potent method of service to the world, and at the same time, it's really a very dynamic means of personal growth, because there's no way that these energies can pass through you without you yourself being changed in some way.
So you mentioned the terms karma yoga and what was the other one?
Laya yoga.
Laya yoga, meaning the transference of energies. I think those are terms from India, or that's sort of where you said they were yogic terms. Is this a tradition that comes from India?
Essentially, no. You'll find that all spiritual traditions have similar origins, and that the yogas are a way of explaining what is going on. Obviously, India has a very rich tradition, so it's a very good way of explaining it.
So you just adopted these phrases?
It's a very well. Go ahead, Judy.
Well, it's not that it's adopted. That is actually, this will be, transmission meditation might be considered the transmission for the New Age, because it combines these type of yogas. I mean, the yoga for the New Age, sorry. Not so. So
where does this practice come from then, if it doesn't come from India?
Well, it is a very recent practice. Transmission meditation itself was given to the world through somebody called Benjamin Krem, who started the first transmission meditation group in 1974 through the encouragement of his master. And he started a group, a small group of, I think, about 12 people. And from there, it grew, and there are now groups all over the world. In fact, every single continent at this point.
There are hundreds of groups all over the world, yeah.
Yeah, 1974, that is very recent.
Yeah.
Did he create this himself, or?
He did not create it. It was given to, the information about it was given to him through a master of the wisdom, who are the spiritual hierarchy of our planet. So they are really the custodians of this spiritual energy that Judy was talking about. And they are the ones who manipulate the spiritual energy and send it through the participants of a transmission meditation group. And that is how transmission meditation works.
So where did Benjamin Krem got it from these masters?
from a particular master. He's in telepathic rapport. When I mentioned the spiritual hierarchy basically is the kingdom above the human kingdom. And I have to say that when I first became involved, I was like, this was actually an eye-opener to me, because I always thought the human kingdom was like the end of evolution. So it was very satisfying to me to know that it's not all up to us. There's actually help from a kingdom above us, more advanced than we are. But essentially it's a continuum. So you're talking about kingdoms that are evolving. We will eventually be masters. We're constantly evolving. The masters are just our elder brothers. They're men and women who have gone before us in evolution and are just further along the path, and they stay to help us along that same path. They know the pitfalls, they know all the problems, so they are able to help us develop and evolve. And Benjamin Krem has a personal relationship, a mind-to-mind relationship with one of these masters.
And who is that? Was it somebody I would know? Or?
He doesn't say.
Oh, he doesn't say? Oh.
No, because it would draw people's attention to, they have lots of work to do, and I guess it would draw people's attention to them in a way that would be distracting or misusing their energy, I should say.
And how did Benjamin Krem come in contact with this master? I guess I'm still trying to figure out how this historically all began.
Well, it's a very long process, and not everybody is in contact with a master. In fact, it's something that happens really towards the very end of the human evolutionary process. As individuals evolve, they take initiations, and each initiation really refines your energy. And as you get further along that road, you start to be able to do the things that most of us human beings can't do, like we can't see the etheric planes, so we can't see etheric levels of matter, or the etheric planes, so, and we can't communicate telepathically. And that is how Benjamin Krem communicates with his master. So he was contacted telepathically, and it took him quite a while to get the messages. In fact, to begin with, he wasn't getting the messages, and somebody said to him, they're calling you, and you're not getting the messages, so pay attention. And he paid attention, and you know, the rest is history.
But it took a long time to develop this rapport. It was a lot of training. It wasn't just, oh, I'm in touch with the master. And it sounds unusual, and I have to say I'm a bit of a skeptic, so it was, but having come to know him and understand, it makes a lot of sense to me. But it does sound a little strange.
Yes, because didn't you know Benjamin Krem? Is he still alive?
Yes,
He's still
he
alive.
is,
And you
actually.
both know him?
Yes.
Yes, yes.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So you can really speak to the fact, like, now that you know him. And,
Exactly. Yeah. I think, especially as a cynic like me, I would consider myself somewhat cynical. You come to know someone, and you come to know whether what you're hearing is for real. Whether is someone deceiving themselves? Are they just making it all up? And I think you have to use your intuition, and you have to find out whether this actually makes sense to you, if it sits well with you, if it holds true.
mm-hmm.
And in my mind, it does. That's all I can say.
Yeah, and tell me a little bit about how you came to this practice.
Well, actually, this is aging me, I saw Benjamin Krem on the Merv Griffin Show in 1982. And I really wasn't interested in anything what you would call spiritual. I was more I grew up in a background that was social activist. And so this was not only strange to me, it was almost, I don't want anything to do with it. But my husband wanted to see this show. He had seen an advertisement for it. And I sat there and listened to Benjamin Krem describe what I had just described as the spiritual hierarchy, and that we're all going along the same path, and it's not someone out there that's above us, but just our elder brothers and sisters, which made tremendous sense to me. It gave me a framework with which to put everything. And, you know, then over the course of reading much of the information, which comes from the esoteric teachings called the Ageless Wisdom teachings. I came to...
Is that Benjamin
No,
Crum's?
the Ageless Wisdom teachings were started back with Helena Blavatsky, who's a Russian woman who also wrote a series of books.
And was also in contact with a master.
Right, and then that went through another series of books with Alice A. Bailey, who also was in contact with a master. And if you read, if you read even the frontispiece to a lot of these books, what it says is, please don't accept this because you think I'm a master or someone who's above and knows everything. Accept it only if it makes sense to you. Accept it only if it rings true to you. Accept it if it connects up with things you already know and fits in with them. If not, disregard it. That appealed to me as well. We've got the free will to decide whether.
Right. Nobody's saying, this is the answer, this is
Exactly.
it. This is it.
Exactly.
I think that you can tell, certainly for me, the response is in your heart. Do you feel it?
Does it ring true to you?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's more than that. There's when, I don't know about you, but when I've had experiences with people who are extraordinary in some way, there is a very visceral response, and you have a sense, a bodily sense, rather than rationalizing things, or it makes sense or anything like that. It's that spidey sense, the tingles, or whatever you want to, what name you want to put to it.
Mm-hmm. And it's using your intuition. Mm-hmm. Your intuition is your inner knowing.
And how did you come to this practice, Vanessa?
Somebody gave me a book. It was an old singing teacher of mine who gave me a book, and they didn't say anything. I started reading, and I couldn't put it down. The Ageless, the esoteric teachings, in fact, I started reading a book of Benjamin Crum's, and although he addresses much of the same material, it's in a much more updated way. It's very much more accessible than some of the...
It's very readable.
Yeah.
A lot of the other information in some of the books is dense, and it really takes...
Yeah.
I mean, it's wonderful information, but it does take more effort to absorb.
And I started reading, and there was nothing that couldn't be explained by this information. Art, science, the way of the world, what humans are here for, spirituality. They really, and that for me was just drew me in a way that I couldn't let go of. Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit more about that? I know you read a whole book, but is there some way you can formulate this for us to understand?
Well, the Ageless Wisdom teachings are much, much more than just about meditation. Meditation is and specifically transmission meditation is something that has been born out of this, but is not necessarily, we don't necessarily need to understand the teachings of the Ageless Wisdom in order to be able to meditate. In fact, it's the simplest meditation you can possibly imagine. There are no special requirements. That said, many of the people, and certainly not all of the people who are attracted to transmission meditation, are also attracted to the Ageless Wisdom teachings. So there is some crossover, but there really isn't any need to be involved or to want to learn about the Ageless Wisdom.
Can you tell me a little bit about the Ageless Wisdom? Or is it too vast that you can't explain it? Or is there a little bit you can?
It really is
Give us a little?
enormous. It's really the meaning of life. It's the meaning of science. It's the purpose of art. It's anything that you can possibly imagine. It's really about evolution more than anything else.
Exactly. It's a study
Wouldn't you agree?
basically of evolution and the expansion of consciousness. Essentially, that's what meditation, any kind of meditation actually, is a more or less scientific way of getting in touch with your soul. And whether we realize it or not, it's our soul's desire. The reason for the soul is to serve. That's what the soul wants to do. So the more, it could be lifetime after lifetime where maybe we start to get in touch with the soul. And the soul, you know, the personality that we see ourselves
We think we are.
that we think we are is really just a reflection of the soul. It's precipitated into the physical form. And meditation, any kind of meditation, as I say, gets you much more in touch with the soul. And in the beginning, as soon as you begin to get in touch with the soul, you want to serve. That's when transmission meditation comes in, because it's different from personal meditation. It in no way conflicts with your personal meditation, but it's a way of serving. And also, it's a group meditation. As we're moving from what we might call the age of Pisces to the age of Aquarius, which is actually an astrological and astronomical fact, we are experiencing the energies of Aquarius, which is more group-minded and synthesizing. And so we're doing things more in groups. And this is the way that transmission meditation works, which is in a group.
Yeah, you know, I've only met a few people who've done transmission meditation, yourselves included. And one of the things that sort of struck me was the fact that a lot of people, or the few people I've met, that a big part of it was the fact that it does good. That was a lot of why people were sort of attracted, or the few people I've talked to, that's why they were attracted to it. And I found it very touching. You know, I think it's very meaningful that that's why people want to do this. Is that true for you? And do you feel like that's generally true?
I would say so, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Doing good, trying to make the world a better place. I mean, you know, that's on a much more expansive, broad description of it, but that's pretty much the case, because that's also, again, getting back to what I was saying, which is what the soul is sort of inspiring you to do.
I think that one of the things that happens in the evolution of humanity, we're at a point in history now when more people than ever are on the verge of what we call the first initiation. And the first initiation comes at the point where we make that first soul contact. So,
what do you mean, soul contact?
Well, for the most part, we go through incarnation after incarnation, and we really believe we are this personality, and our soul really doesn't have much bearing on our lives until we get close to the first initiation. And at that point, we have some sense about there being something other than this physical existence, this human existence. We get a glimpse, if you like, of this spiritual perspective to our lives, and that is soul contact. And the moment you contact the soul, as Judy said, you have this desire to serve. Now, in that first instance, we are often unsure of how we can serve. And one of the things about transmission meditation is that is so easy to do. You literally sit there with your eyes closed, and that's it. I mean, it can be difficult concentrating, but for those people who are at that point where this soul contact is relatively recent, and the desire to serve is there, but not necessarily, they don't necessarily know in which field, or they haven't got a sense of how to serve. This is where transmission meditation is, a great means.
It's actually a wonderful opportunity, because there's so many people who, I mean, I've heard people say, I really want to help, but where do I start? Where do I begin? What do I do? And
Definitely.
they also have demands, everyday demands, their family, their jobs, responsibilities. What can I do that can that I can do at the same time and still be able to take care of all the things I have to take care of. Transmission meditation was actually provided just for those kind of people, because you're essentially just taking maybe 1 or 2 nights a week for a couple of hours and being able to do an enormous good for the world.
Great. That's wonderful. So we're pretty much out of time now, believe it or not. So
Wow.
yeah, it goes really fast, doesn't it? So we're going to finish up here, and then we're going to go on to another segment, in which we'll actually be doing the practice. But can you tell me just very briefly how this practice has benefited you directly? Maybe you can't say that. Maybe after we talk so much about like how it's good for the world. But can you tell me a little bit about how this has benefited you?
That's the lovely byproduct of this. It's not the purpose of the meditation. The purpose of the meditation is service, but the byproduct of it is that, as I said earlier, that it can't help but change you as these energies go through your energy centers. Essentially, these energies are sent through your energy centers and into the world. And they make you more creative. They focus. For me, I'm more mentally focused. I've got some of my best ideas, not that they're great, but I've got some of my best ideas during meditation. They make you be able to synthesize things better. That's what I found. And it's subtle. It's not like you're going to do meditation one day and all of a sudden you're going to be a changed person. And the changes are internal, and as I said, they're subtle. They're not, they're not something you're going to just snap your fingers and say, oh, that's what happened. But you'll notice it. People around you notice that you've changed, which is interesting, because that's often how, the reflection of who you are in someone else's eyes is often, you may not see it yourself, but is often how you can understand that things are actually changing.
And how about you, Vanessa? Anything to add to that? Or?
Judy's right. It's very subtle. I would say there's a flow that starts to happen. You find there's a purpose. There's a freeing up of things in your life that we often get to a point where we're stuck, and I find that when I'm meditating regularly, that just doesn't happen. Yeah, it really it's very hard to put your finger on it, but it is it's one of the and we've both been at this quite a long time. But it's something that
since we're 12.
Yeah, right. And it just draws you back. You take a little time off, and you can't help but come back to it. Yeah. It really is extraordinary in that regard.
But again, it's regular. The idea is regularity and intention and desire to serve. So once you have those 2 elements, you can form a transmission group, and it's as we have both said, it's very easy. Yes. A friend of mine coined the phrase, it's perfect for the armchair activist.
Right.
That's a good phrase. Well, thank you so much for coming, and we'll have another segment with you in a moment.
Okay, fine, thank you.